Everyone please rise. Council come to order. Will be led in prayer by Alderman Nash.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessings upon the member of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all of our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of our community. Amen.
Amen. Alderwoman Gould, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our City Council meeting on Patriots Day. Beginning of this meeting, as always, in the second part of the month, is the Citizen Comment General for 30 minutes on non-agenda items. Each person wishing to speak, we ask you to please approach the microphone, state your name and address for the public record. Please speak succinctly, and each person would have 3 minutes. I declare Citizen Comment General at this time to be open. And on the non-agenda item, the first person to sign up is Marvin Cerruto.
Marvin Cerruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, the United States of America, which is a republic. I hold in my hand the Constitution. Happy Patriots Day. Lexington and Concord. People stood up for something. They stood up against tyranny, and what they wanted to stand for was truth. And I also keep the 10 Commandments in my pocket here. Try to follow them as best I can. My good friend Richard Chicola here has extra copies of the Constitution. I've read it cover to cover. I'm not going to ask anybody if you've read it cover to cover. I would hope that you did. And I reference it all the time. I also go back to the Federalist Papers to find out and discover exactly what our founders were thinking about and why they did what they did. And last night I watched one of my favorite movies, Network. I'm mad as hell and I can't take it anymore. So that brings us to this issue, and I'll be as calm and collected and mellow as I can. The last year, I myself, along with many others, went through a lot of turmoil right up the road here at Chelsea Parade. Many of you don't know how many hours people put into an Italian heritage monument. Everything that mentions Christopher Columbus is gone. That's not right. None of us were consulted, and I know there's a lot of rigmarole over who does what and who owns what and who controls what, but it's still an issue. And we had members of a Marxist communist organization come here and threaten my city. My final statement is, this year, I will not tolerate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Brian Kobolars.
Good evening, Brian Kobolars, 16 Hobart Avenue. I'm here to address basically tonight something related to the city's live streaming of council meetings and public hearings. It was with quite a bit of surprise that I found that as soon as you reopen this chamber for anybody being here in public attendance, that you automatically terminated the ability of the public to call in to ask questions or to address this council, which has been the practice now for months. Less than half, from what I understand, of the population of this city has so far been vaccinated. Add on to that the fear that many would have, whether they have pre-existing conditions, being senior citizens, you name it, of coming into any group of people, including that in a council chamber where people are spread out. I would encourage you to reestablish allowing people to call in by phone during these comments periods of time, as well as during public hearings. Otherwise, you end up eliminating the ability of a good portion of the population of the city, the ability to address you verbally, as I'm doing right now. A second issue that I just wanted to bring up with the live stream, and I pointed this out to a couple of you individually as well. When you go into executive session, you switch back over the feed to CTN. The meeting is not adjourned. There is no reason that you could not put up a graphic with the City of Norwich seal and the simple words executive session during those times when you're there. Because after an executive session, there is nothing that I know of in the rules to prevent you from introducing a new resolution or making other comments, anything that could end up taking place. And the citizens of the city may have no idea that you've gone in that direction. So I encourage you to look at these revisions in your policies. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. No one else had signed up on the agenda to speak. If anyone else who is here would like to address the council on any matter, this is your opportunity to do so, please, and I would invite you to come up. Again, if you'd like to speak on issues that are not on the council agenda, this is the opportunity to introduce those topics. Again, if you'd like to join us, we welcome your comments. Once more, again, I invite anyone to come here and speak to us tonight. You'll have 3 minutes. Just please state your name and address for the public record. Third and final request, if you'd like to address an issue with us, please do so at this time. Seeing that no one else wishes to address the council on open matters, I then declare the hearing closed, and I thank those who spoke for sharing with us this evening. Thank you.
Second reading in action on the below ordinances previously presented. Number 1, an ordinance amending section 8-74, 8-75, and 8-77 of Article 4 of Chapter 8 of the Code of Ordinances pertaining to the Volunteer Firefighters Relief Fund Plan of the City of Norwich.
I would entertain a motion, please, to bring the ordinance forward to the floor. Is there such a motion? Alderwoman Gould? Second, Alderwoman Miles. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
I'd like to make a motion that we postpone this until the May 17th, 2021 meeting.
The motion is to postpone final action on this proposed ordinance until May 17th, 2020. Motion by Alderwoman Gould. Is there a second?
Second.
Alderwoman Miles, second. Is there discussion on the motion to postpone? Alderman Nash?
I just have a quick question because this is like, I think the third time that we've postponed this. Is this going to be a date that we're going to be able to take action on this, or is it going to be another date that we postpone? I'm assuming the city manager could have that answer.
We're getting close to a settlement, so I would say that the second meeting in May should be appropriate. If it's not, I'll bring it up in the agenda meeting prior to that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I want. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Is there further question or comment? Seeing none, could we have a roll call on the motion to postpone, please?
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gold?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion to postpone till May 17th passes 7-0. Thank you.
Number 2, an ordinance amending Chapter 3, Special Districts by adding Section 311, Business Master Plan District, to the Norwich zoning regulations.
I'd entertain a motion, please, to bring this proposed ordinance to the floor. Keep in mind, a public hearing was previously held, and the council then took action to amend the ordinance, which then resulted in the publication of the ordinance with the amendments since our last meeting. Is there such a motion? Alderwoman Miles, second. Alderman Nash. Is there discussion on the motion? Yes, Alderman Wilson, please.
I just kind of want to acknowledge, I know we've all got the same correspondence, but that we did get Mark Perkins' concern regarding this resolution or ordinance. We did get it, and it was received, and we have understood all of his comments and concerns moving forward with this. So just wanted to put that for the record.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion? Alderman DeLucia.
So, if we could ask Ms. Rhodes to come to the podium, I
Yep.
have my questions directly for her. Hi again.
Hello.
So my question has to do on page 4 under the permitted uses, item number 8. You know, I understand that you know, this would be essentially a mechanism we could use anywhere in the city. The ordinance clearly states that. But, you know, we know that the first property will be, or is intended to be, the Business Park 2.0. If we, and I'm concerned that item 8 says power generation facilities and utilities.
If you don't,
You know, I for one, and maybe I might be out of line saying this, I don't want a gas-powered electrical plant on this, actually in the city of Norwich. I don't think that that's what we're trying to accomplish here, all right?
so the applicant, NCDC, their attorney is here, Mark Block, so they actually proposed this regulation and proposed the uses here. And then the Commission on the City Plan reviewed that and staff reviewed that, but they may have a reason that they specifically added this use in. So if Attorney Block could come up and address that?
That'd be great, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Name and address, please.
Mark Block, 138 Main Street, Norwich. I am a co-author of the resolution. And the question regards paragraph 8, power generation facilities and utilities. I don't know that this was added with any specific utility use in mind. You know, it could be solar facilities. It could be uses of that. I don't know that we took into consideration your, proposed use, but it would be all subject to site plan review by the Commission on the City Plan. So if the use was not, didn't meet the standards that the Commission on the City Plan set in connection with the the zoning regulations, the fact that a specific permitted use is in there, it still has to meet the other regulatory requirements. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Well, I guess my question would be, should we leave that item in there under permitted uses? Or should we move it to the prohibited uses if the council feels that that is not the type of development that we would want to see in one of these zones?
you know, my suggestion is that we can continue to tinker with the proposed regulation, speculating on what might come before the council in its capacity as a zoning authority. But if afterwards, after the ordinance is passed, there is some support to amending the ordinance, it can always be amended and changed at a later date. But I think it's important for us to move forward at this time with an ordinance that we can use to support the development of the business park and go forward with that proposed use. If we want to tinker with it later on, we can always do that. But to table and tinker and table and tinker, I don't know that it's a productive use of the council's time or even the time of the commission on the city plan or myself to speculate on what might be good and what might not be good. I think we used our best judgment in the drafting and left it as liberal as we could with keeping the power in the zoning authority and the commission on the city plan.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Are there other? Yes, Alderman Nash.
I'm going to share Alderman DeLucia's concerns as well. Let me tell you a little story that happened to me yesterday while I was in Stop and Shop. And while I was in the parking lot getting out of my car, I was approached by a constituent who was completely and utterly irate with me, using colorful language I won't use here, but pretty much that the council didn't know its elbow from a hole in the ground, if I can use that. And most of the argument was towards this particular public hearing thing, the ordinance. And I did try to explain to them that this was the horse in front of the cart theory that I used last time on the council, that we were simply trying to be prepared for when we do decide if this is purchased, this property moves forward with the Byron Brook, and I'm talking about that particular property, and we move forward with that we have a plan in place that we don't get any more brownfield issues. And I mean, no matter what you put there, listen, you could put a data center in there and it could have a brownfield issue once they leave. I mean, we don't know what's being put in the ground at the time. We can say we're going to coordinate it and watch it and be careful, and still things happen. So I will share my concerns that I don't want to tire the energy plant or a trash to energy plant or any kind of facility like that. Now, I don't know about utilities. I know that sometimes our utility company puts substations in to generate power to an area, so I wouldn't want to restrict that portion of it. But I do share, I want everyone to know I do share, and it's not just tinkering, because citizens, even though people may think it's a waste of council time, I don't think it is, because constituents believe we control this. And whether it's a zoning issue or a council issue, yes, it was only one individual, but again, the constituents out there are paying attention to it, and it's our job to answer to them. And I didn't know we had the power generation facility thing in there, so I kind of argued with the guy saying that we're not going to allow an industry that comes in there to ruin that pristine property or that land. But I think it's a good use for that property, but I don't know if I agree with you. I'm concerned about the generation thing. So that's all I wanted to share that story with you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Alderman Betancourt.
Yeah, again, I don't want to get behind on this. We're getting a little ahead as far as the whole Business Park North concept. I mean, we're talking about the creation of another tool, if you will, that this ordinance could actually go beyond that. So if somebody puts together enough pieces of property, a large enough piece, this could also come into play, with another development project. So I think the commission and the city plan probably thought that, they didn't think a zoning ordinance crafted for one particular project was necessarily a good thing, and I would tend to agree with that. So I don't have a problem with some of the changes they did, like a reduction in the acreage requirement, for instance. But the fact of the matter is that anything that happens, once this ordinance is in place, would come back, a master plan would come before the council as the zoning authority. And then after that, the site approvals and things like that with the commission and the city plan, and those things would all be reviewed. So that plan would have to get through this body first. So before we ever got to that point. So I just point that out. What we're doing here is we're creating, a tool, for the toolbox. We started talking about that other piece there. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. But this is just, again, another tool for that zoning toolbox. So give us an opportunity to take a look and develop something. But without more specifics, and I think we all know we don't have a lot of specifics on any possible plan at this point. There is no, plan before us. But this is just to create the first piece of, being able to do something down the road. So I'm going to support the ordinance. Whether or not, we do something with the, down the road will depend on the exact form everything takes. So, and I don't think, we're in a situation where we can, concern ourselves too much with that. And to do so, I think would be counterproductive. So I'd ask, I'm going to support this ordinance in its present form. Although I will agree, I think maybe that language is a little broad regarding that one particular item. But again, anything that happens like that is going to come before this body again. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman Wilson.
So I will say I agree with, the sentiments of Alderman DeLucia, Alderman Nash, as well as Alderman Betancourt. I think, one, it is a tool to put in the toolbox. But I think the other part is understanding we do hear loud and clear what our constituents are saying. Their concerns are valid concerns. And the beauty of democracy is the part that we're not getting rid of the way things are done. So if something does come forward, we still are going through the process of other public hearings and us reviewing applications before anything is approved. I think what this does is it gives us a mechanism to look at some of those bigger projects. There's specific things that have changed. They are looking at it carefully. I think as the council, our job as the zoning authority over time is to be do our due diligence in understanding our constituents' concerns. So as those things do come forward, us being very cognizant of projects. I think that at the end of the day, that's our job. But I think moving forward with this tool, it's just a setup tool or for us to begin some other things that could be very beneficial to us down the road. But I agree. At the end of the day, it's our job as a council to continue to be the watchdogs of property here in the city of Norwich, but also how things are done. And I think the system is in place for, even with this passing, things have to come back through here. They've got to go through other commissions before they are approved. So this is not a rubber stamp on any project down the road, but it's our job as the council to continue to be the watchdogs of our tax constituents' dollars and what we have as land and whatnot in the city. And so that concern of certain projects not wanting to be, or certain types of business wanting to be in the city is a valid one. And we've got to continue to keep those things in mind. But they can't get passed with a rubber stamp. We know that they have a process they've got to go through to get to that. So I agree, and for that reason, I'll be supporting this.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
All right, so I'm going to agree with Pro Tem Betancourt that while we may be discussing the possibility of something happening in the I-95 Taffel-Ockham area, this also says that there may be other areas in the city which may be identified which present opportunities. So if Norwich Public Utilities needed a new facility or needed to expand an existing facility, we have to have the ability to allow them to do that because that generates revenue for the city of Norwich. We can't put the horse before the cart. As everyone has said, we are the zoning authority. And if something comes up that we find that to be that we object to, or the Commission on the City Plan objects to, then we won't let it happen. But we have to be forward-thinking and understand economic development for the city of Norwich has to be the cornerstone of the city's lifeline. Big business generates revenue for the city through utilities, through tax dollars, through jobs. People move here, pay taxes. It's a win-win for the city. So we have to have this type of master plan and have thoughtful development for the city to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Just for the public record, for myself, I'll try to be brief. Current zoning on this structure is planned development. That was developed when we redid our master plan or plan of conservation and development. And a good friend of ours helped us do that. His name was Jason Vincent. And I'm grateful today even that that plan development designation was there. The city was approached to put basically a car husk farm up there with a reclamation center. Plan development doesn't allow for us or anyone to do that now, nor would we like to see that there in full view of the highway. So thank you to Jason Vincent. But this ordinance itself is actually giving the city the ability to direct development there, and I think it protects the land even more than the plan development zoning designation that I just talked about. And I point out that that company was told no, they couldn't do it. Well, they came back a year later and asked to do it again anyway. And we simply sent them on their way. And we had the tools to do so in the current ordinance and zoning. That's what this ordinance is about. It's actually, in some cases, limits the kinds of development. Indirectly, it limits kinds of development we wouldn't want to see there. And I think that's really important, that whoever's sitting at this desk, who's the zoning authority, has the tools to control the development that we would hope the citizens would get behind and see. That's why it went to the Commission on City Plan. They made recommendations. We adopted most of them. There was only one that we did not agree with, because in my opinion, it went the other way. It loosens the restrictions, and we're not looking to do that. We're looking to protect that pristine land up there. And again, passage of this ordinance does not mean you have to buy it. At the end of the investigative process, it may come back to the city that it's not a good investment. But this does allow us to protect the land if it is to be developed. So I will be supporting it for that reason. And as far as power generation, just in full disclosure, if it is developed, I believe NPU will have to put an electric substation there, but they won't be generating power. They'll be tying into the overhead power lines that run across the property. And that's one of the reasons that property is attractive. It already has electricity on its site, but it does have to be tapped into. We do not generate power in Norwich. We buy off the New England power grid. So as far as any kind of entity that was outlined and concerned, I would be concerned about that too, and I tell you right now, I wouldn't let it. I'd say no all the way through for something like that. So that's my 2 cents. I guess we're ready for the vote. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia.
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould.
Yes.
Alderman Nash.
Yes.
President Pro Tem Betancourt.
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom.
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. The ordinance as amended is adopted.
Public hearing. an ordinance amending ordinance 1714 adopted February 17, 2015, and subsequently added by ordinance 1785 adopted May 18, 2020, pertaining to the adaptive reuse and rehabilitation of the historic Panema Mills, to clarify that the mill building number 1 was developed in 3 phases and the tax abatement related to the real property improvements.
I declare this public hearing open, and I would invite anyone who likes to speak in favor of this ordinance. You please state your name and address for the public record, and you would have 3 minutes. Is there anyone here who likes to speak in favor of adoption of this ordinance? Is anyone here wishing to speak in favor of adoption of this ordinance? Again, is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of the adoption of this ordinance? Last time, does anyone like to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time? Seeing none, I then ask, is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this ordinance? Again, anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this ordinance? Third and final time, is there anyone here who wishes to speak in opposition to this ordinance? Seeing there is no one wishing to speak in opposition or in favor at this time, I would then declare this public hearing closed. Thank you.
Second reading in action on the above, previously presented. An ordinance amending ordinance 1714 adopted February 17, 2015, and subsequently amended by ordinance 1785 adopted May 18, 2020, pertaining to the adaptive reuse and rehabilitation of the historic Panema Mills, to clarify that the mill building number 1 was developed in 3 phases and the tax abatement related to the real property improvements.
Thank you. Entertain a motion, please, to bring this ordinance forward. Alderwoman Gould, Alderwoman Miles, second. Is there discussion? Yes, President Pro Tem Mark Betancourt.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Corporation Counsel to come up for a second, or come to a microphone somewhere. Counsel, there's a 3 whereases that are essentially, I think we were discussing this earlier, orphaned in the ordinance because something, one of the therefore be it ordains was dropped. So I think it's the last 2 whereases and the stuff regarding the assessments, basically. And I was wondering if there's any impact by leaving those in there.
Corporation Counsel Michael Driscoll. The paragraphs that are referred to on the first page reads, whereas the City of Norwich conducted a citywide revaluation effective with the grand list of October 1st, 2018, which adjusted the value of real estate in the City of Norwich, including the Panema Mill building number 1, and on the top of the second page there are 2 whereases. Whereas the question has arisen with whether the language in ordinance number 1714 froze the valuation of the real estate with the glasses. I'm having trouble reading it. And then the third one addresses the same thing. This was drafted in combination with discussions with Luke Hoffman, the attorney for Panema Mills. And originally there were 8 provisions that were numbered 1 through 8. He had some objections to the number 7 as it was in that draft. And in discussions, we agreed that this had to do with the assessment of property, that would be deferred to other discussions at a later time. So it was dropped. So right now you have 7 provisions, 1 through 7. Those 3 paragraphs were primarily addressed to the provision that is no longer in it. So whether you describe them as orphans or surplus, they aren't really germane to the ordinance that you're considering right now. Rather, it addresses the other issues, the phasing in of the property, et cetera. So just for clarification, because
So there's no impact, in other words, to the
it
ordinance?
should not. You're not, these are by way of one of the reasons, et cetera. In this case, these are just extras. They don't really affect what you're voting on tonight.
Go ahead.
On the ordinance, obviously, this is something that, we've been, there's a project that's been ongoing for a number of years. I think came up during my first 2 terms on the council initially, and, we've, obviously, when the economy tanked back then, the project, was laid in wait, basically, waiting for financing, and finally, that did come through with the work of a lot of people, Jason Vincent being one, and other people, and because there are so many financing resources for that property. There's still some things to work out, but this basically just cleans up some questions regarding some of the initial ordinances. And obviously, I live right up the road from this, so I'm kind of supportive of it and of the development. And I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion? Alderman DeLucia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I too share a certain amount of happiness that we've clarified this and rectified what I believe was the intent of the council at the time to start this project and move forward, and also to support this project as it progressed. And frankly, the building is beautiful. And you just have to love driving through Taffel and seeing that huge mill brought back to life. And I look forward to the commercial aspects of this long-term project being brought to fruition on the building on North 2nd Avenue and also on in South Mill. So this is really a rebirth of the village of Taffel. I think in the not too distant future, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years down the road after we're all long gone, people will look back and then they'll look at what that village has become, and they'll say, geez, for all of the times that they got it wrong, the council finally got one right. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion? Well, I'd like to say for the record, I'll be supporting this ordinance, which I think does, in fact, clarify things. But I want to describe one of the things I find remarkable about this site. This is the way housing should be done. There's market rate units, there's moderate to low income rate units, and you can't tell the difference between them. You go from one to the other, it doesn't matter. It's an opportunity for people of different socioeconomic incomes to live together, and I think that's encouraging. There's room for people there who might not think they can live there, but they can. That opportunity is provided. Done so because of the 16 various financing mechanisms that the Pro Tem spoke of earlier. That's what it took to put this together. And one of the things that's required is that low-income units be provided for people. But everyone deserves a nice, safe place to live, and that's what this really represents. It's a blending of housing units. It's really important. So, thank you. Yes, Alderman Wilson.
I will say the part of there being low-income units as well as market rate units, that point is well taken. I think it goes to the point, other cities and towns in Connecticut and across the nation are having the discussion of, housing being segregated, whereas this is a project that shows and models that there's room for no matter what your circumstances, there's room for you and a place. And I think that's one of the things that this project definitely shows, is that there's room to be made for everyone to live and have wonderful things. And I think that's one of the points that sometimes is lost in all of the discussions, is the fact of what this project as a whole does for Taftville, putting people of all socioeconomic status, backgrounds in a place to learn from one another, but also develop a beautiful community. So definitely that point is well taken. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. No other comments? The roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
Petitions and communication. Letter of resignation of Stephen Becker from the Board of Public Utility Commissioners.
A motion, please. We can receive this, please. Alderwoman Miles, second. Alderman Nash. Is there any comment? Alderman Gould.
I'd just like to take this opportunity to publicly thank Mr. Becker for his many years of dedicated service to the Utilities Commission. He really was an invaluable member of the commission, and to wish him and his wife Linda all the best as they start this next chapter in their lives.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson.
Again, echoing the sentiments of Alderwoman Gould, thanking Mr. Becker and his family for their service, time, and energy here in the city, and wishing him the best in the next phase of his life.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Nash.
I know it sounds silly, we're all up here praising the gentleman who's leaving us, but I just want to say that the Beckers in general, just not Steve alone, but the family has done a lot for Norwich over the many years that I've been here, and I've lived in Norwich now since 1984, and the Beckers, since I've been involved in politics, have always been very influential with our city, whether they were business owners, realtors, served on commissions and committees and stuff. So I do wish the Beckers the best of luck. We'll miss them, their wisdom and their dedication to the great city of Norwich, because they were certainly strong advocates for our city, and they'll be missed.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I would like to add that Stephen called me this morning. He wanted me to extend his thanks to the members of this council and previous councils for the opportunity to serve on the commission. I'd like to point out also that his wife Linda previously served on this city council, a council. She was elected in 1987 and served a number of terms here as well. Their family goes back over 100 years in this community. They had a business down on Chestnut Street in the basement of the old brass mill. It is true that they have contributed in a number of ways, providing employment, tax base, you name it. And they're going to be missed, certainly by me. They're good friends for many people in this community, but we wish them nothing but the best on their new journey. Okay, roll please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Can I say no and he has to stay, or?
No.
No. Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
The motion passes 7-0.
City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for April 19th, 2021. The council meetings were reopened to the public on April 5th, along with the budget hearings to comply with social distancing requirements. Council meetings are on cable access channel and live streamed on the city's website. All other meetings remain via conference call or video until City Hall reopens to the public. Meetings attended via conference call or video were weekly Governor Lamont updates, state representatives and legislators, Southeastern Council of Governments, Southeastern Area Transit, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, Legislative Committee and Board of Directors meetings, Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Agency investment meeting, NPU City Coordination meeting, budget hearings meeting, Region 4 Emergency Support Plan, Department of Health COVID-19 updates, Public Safety, NCDC Director Search Committee, and budget hearings. The city manager's office also participated in judging the annual Rotary four-way test speech contest. Valerie, and I'm going to have a problem.
Ariita.
Thank you. From NFA will be competing in the district finals, and the winners will be announced on April 24th. The first place speaker will receive a $500 award, and 3 runner-ups will receive $250. Best of luck to Valeria. Since March 15th, the Senior Center has held 12 COVID clinics, 11 with Uncas Health District and 1 with Griffith Health. To date, just over 4,700 individuals have been vaccinated at the Senior Center. Good work to all involved in the continued fight against this pandemic. The Recreation Department is getting ready for spring outdoor programs. A combined spring-summer program booklet went out at the end of March to over 13,000 households in Norwich. There are over 40 programs for youth and adults for spring and summer, along with summer day camp, kinder camp with 3 to 5-year-olds, and 12 summer sport and specialty camps. All programs follow the most recent executive orders regarding mask wearing, hand washing, social distancing. Spring programs start the week of May 3rd with registration processed via mail or on the city's website. Norwich Youth and Family Services, along with the Opioid Task Force, had ads installed at city bus shelters informing people to call the police if they are witnessing an overdose and that they will not be arrested due to the Good Samaritan law. City Clerk Betsy Barrett and my assistant Jackie Barbarossa gave a brief tour of City Hall to representatives from the Norwich Times regarding the history of the building for upcoming articles. I have attached the city departments, NCDC, and Otis Library reports for the quarter ending March 31st, 2021. And that completes my report for this evening.
Thank you, John. Other questions? City Manager, Alderwoman Gould.
Got a question. On behalf of the Norwich Sunrise Rotary, I would like to thank you for once again participating in our four-way speech competition by judging the videos this year from the contestants, and we appreciate you always being willing to step up and help us with that very nice program that Rotary puts on every year. So thank you, John.
Thank you.
Be looking forward to getting that back live maybe next year, right?
Yes, we hope so. And I should also give a shout out to MPU, who helped us with a lot of the technical ins and outs of getting all these videos compiled, sent out to the judges, sent back. So, thanks to everyone who was involved.
You're welcome. Alderman Wilson.
So I will say, thank you, Mr. Solomon, for, of course, participating in such an important thing of being a part of the community. I think that's one of the good things that you have done in your tenure here as city manager. I will say I'm ecstatic with Valeria being one of the individuals. She was actually one of my former students. So it's great to see students build and become excellent stewards and citizens here in this community. Little background on her: she also was a recipient of the MLK Scholarship in the fall. So she is doing great things, and I know as she gets ready to graduate at Norwich Free Academy, she's destined for great things beyond the academy. The other thing I want to say, the rec department, I think one of the biggest things, you hear is there's nothing to do here in Norwich. And one of the things that, I look at, if you get the recreation department's booklet, there are so many opportunities for families. And I know Alderman Nash can also, back me up on this part. They do a phenomenal job with the things that they are offering families. They've got scholarships for programs, and they do an excellent job advertising all of the opportunities they have for children, adults, everyone in the city of Norwich. And I think, one of the things that I'm hoping as things start to continue to open up, individuals take an opportunity in getting involved in them. There are some wonderful programs that they are offering for kids of all ages, adults, families, and I couldn't be more proud of the work that the rec department here in Norwich has been doing over the last year and continue to do. Several questions, and I know it's been brought up. I know come May 19th, things are going to look a little even more different as many restrictions and areas are lifted. So my question to you is, as those things start to happen, what is our plan here for City Hall, but also for council meetings?
Well, we, as you have noted, we are gradually phasing in items. We're excited about having ceremonies this spring. Memorial Day will have a modified ceremony outside. Last year they didn't. We're looking at some of the downtown festivals possibly having this year. I'm getting more confident of it after now it's been a month since we were anticipating the spike in the coronavirus, and we've gone up a little bit. Now we've leveled off, so maybe we've weathered the worst of it. I think having immunizations over 50% has really kind of muted some of the reaction.
So the other part that I will say, and Mr. Kobilar, he brought it up tonight, but also I've had quite a few individuals reach out to me of the concern. One of the things that this pandemic has done is teach us about the technological age and ways to be accessible. Accessibility, I will continue to be an advocate for it. We have individuals, even as things open up, that aren't going to still feel comfortable. There's that seating capacity in here. There are people that are not going to feel comfortable still to come back here yet. And while I think it's admirable that people, of course, can email or mail their comments in, we need to continue to think of ways to be more accessible to more people being involved in government. And that's more so for public hearings and things of that sort. I think that's one thing that this pandemic has taught us is we've got families working 2 and 3 jobs that can't come and sit in this chamber for an hour and wait to be called upon for certain public hearings, such as the budgets and whatnot. So, I think one of the things, and I said this back a month or so ago, is us really considering allowing people to call in for public hearings and especially the budget. I think one thing, there are going to be some big decisions that have to be made. And whether it's 1 or 2 callers, that's 1 or 2 additional people that didn't feel comfortable here having an opportunity for their voice to be heard. And I think whatever ways we can allow people to be accessible is important. Yes, is it going to take some time to figure out the technical pieces of it? Absolutely, but I think we've got the talented individuals here in the city to figure that out. I think it's something we owe to each and every resident to give them as many opportunities and ways as possible to let their voice be heard. So I think that's one thing that I would love to continue to see us investigate. We still have another budget public hearing coming up, so hopefully by then we can have something in place. And then my last thing would be, and I've said this for some time as we talk about accessibility, is realizing that the flyers and things that we put out, not every person can read them. You know, we've got people of so many different cultures here in the city of Norwich. For us to really start to think of how we can make them feel more inclusive in what we post on social media, on our websites and things of those sort, flyers, all of those things. I've heard concerns. We've got amazing individuals that can help us in software to help us translate those things. Again, it's accessibility, but also making people feel that we understand the inclusion of them. So those are things that, you know, we're talking about, and I'm all about us practicing it as a city. So those are just two of the big things that I want to bring forth. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there further comment, question to the city manager? Well, as mayor, I would like to offer Valeria my congratulations. Her speech was exceptional, as were all the others. I too judged this year, which was fun to do. I also want the council to know that the food distributions continue through May 24th, every Monday. There will not be one on Memorial Day. I want the council to remember on Saturday at 1 o'clock on Chelsea Parade, there will be a Vietnam Day program, again at 1 o'clock. Anyone in the council is invited to attend. I'd also like to make note that on the 28th of next week, there will be a food distribution in Jason Vincent's memory at the Senior Center. Volunteers arrive at 3:30, and then the food distribution begins at 4 p.m. Thank you. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Alderwoman Gould, second by Alderman Nash. Roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Benford?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion to adjourn passes 7-0. Thank you all.